Day 4. We are almost done, and you have gotten so many resources. I hope you're not feeling overwhelmed. I hope you're doing well, and I hope that you are ready for the next 4 subjects that we're dealing with today. They are big subjects. Navigating the language barrier is huge. Learning a language is huge. Culture shock, pfft, we could spend hours on culture shock. And actually, we do in the in the course that I'm creating. So I'm way up here, but this says basic phrases for language learning. So I have a YouTube video. I will link it in the description below. But there are some simple phrases that if you move to the country that you should know. Thank you. Hello. How are you? I'm fine. The day is beautiful. Something about the weather. And then the basics that you go from day to day. For example, if you go to the grocery store, they're going to ask you, do you need a bag? Yes, I do. No, I don't. Thank you so much. Card. What's your identification number? Learning how to say your NIF or your NIE in the language is always really good practice as well. There are apps, there are translation tools, there are classes, and you are just going to have to make sure that you are just persistent and patient. If you're able to learn the language and get yourself through basic conversations and you can gradually add on more and more language, then that is a bonus. And lots of people in the countries will be very grateful for you to have tried learning the language. The other concern, as always, is based on your visa requirement. So, if you want to take your visa residency and make your residency into a citizenship, often your country is going to ask for a language requirement. That can be a proficiency test that you take, that could be a course that you need to pay for, or it could be a government course that's sponsored and free. I had my visa approved. I am considered a temporary resident for 5 years. Then I can apply for citizenship. And then that also gains me access into the EU passport system. So it depends on what you're looking for as to what you need to learn and how the language is going to affect you day to day. We have some examples in our resources about the phases of culture shock. So we're just going to go over them very quickly. Honeymoon is usually within the first or 5 or 6 months that you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I live here. This is so great. Almost a vacation style feeling. Frustration can happen at any point in time. And I'm going to tell you that this is a cycle. You're going to go back and back and forth to these phases. And it probably isn't going to get better until several years of living in that new country. So, frustration can be at the very beginning when you're trying to get all your documents for your visa application, and you don't know who to talk to. Sometimes the most frustrating is once you've sent in your application and you haven't heard anything. You can't contact the people that helped you with the visa, and you can't contact the country. You're kind of in this no man's land, gray zone. Then adjustment phase. You start to gradually understand more of the language, you're understanding the culture, you're understanding, when you should eat dinner, how to buy groceries, where to go for certain things. You've already got under your belt a bank account, your identification, your health system, all of that, and you're kind of feeling good about it. Acceptance is when you realize that there are some things that you're just not going to be able to change about this culture. And sometimes you actually start to like that portion of the culture that maybe was a frustration phase at one point. For example, some people, when they first get to a European country, they are shocked that we don't eat dinner until 8 and sometimes 9 o'clock at night. But once you've been here for a year, 2 years, you understand and realize, and you don't try to continue your same culture that of your home country, but instead adopt your culture in the new country. So you're accepting. And then I want to talk about something that isn't necessarily about culture shock, but it is about reentry and the shock that you can get going back to your home country. So it's called reentry shock or post travel shock, sometimes it's called, when you go back and you see how different things are. And what you realize is that the country hasn't changed, you have. And how you need to adjust with that is really important in how successful you are of being able to go back to your home country and then come back to your new country. And then one person, two places. This is also called a third culture kid. Usually it talks about one foot is in America, the other foot is in Portugal, but you kind of don't, you're not really one or the other. So when you go to America, you might feel a little bit Portuguese and not 100% American. And when you go to Portugal, you're not Portuguese. People look at you as an American, but you have this like kind of 2 feet, one in each culture. And that is also a difficult situation to be in. But just knowing that that happens and you can put a name to it. How do you try to prevent or mitigate culture shock? Well, the first thing is knowledge. Staying informed, knowing what phase that you might be in is so much more helpful than you can imagine. And building a support network, not only in your home country, but in your new country, with people that also have gone through what you have gone through. Because we're all at different stages, they may recognize where you are and be able to be more helpful in helping you, support the changes that you are having. And then maintaining an open mind. I think that this goes without saying, but I also think that it's one of those personality traits of people that move abroad. They usually have an open mind and are willing to try new things. But sometimes when you're in that frustration phase, you just want to go home. You just want something normal. You just want normal. You want normal food. You want the nostalgic food that you felt like you needed in your home country and you can't get in your new country. That can be really frustrating. And also know when to say when. If you're having trouble, make sure that if you can't get to a point where you want to go by yourself or with your support team, that you also seek professional help. Being in therapy has been helpful for me to discuss the changes that I have with my friends back in my home country, as well as maintaining and starting friendships here in Portugal. Speaking of friends, this is an important part because, again, you're going to have one foot in your home country and one foot in your new country. And although you want to maintain family and friends connections in your home country, it's going to be more and more difficult. And then also, you're being kind of pulled in the way that you want to make a new support system in your new country. And so you want to gain and maintain friends there as well. So, regular communication on both sides is going to be very, very helpful. For some people, it means that you have a weekly Zoom meeting, you have all of the family there, maybe with your phone so that they can see your new apartment or where you live, or maybe go grocery shopping with you to kind of make it feel like they are right there with you. Social media is one of those that is very difficult because oftentimes people only put the positives, but sometimes it's a way to kind of keep up with people if you weren't able to go to birthday parties or a wedding or something in that fashion, that you're able to give them well wishes and be there digitally, if you can. And then shared activities. Once you get into your new country, you're going to want to find people that are doing the same thing. You don't want them to just be expats and you're an expat or an immigrant. And so you want to make sure that you're kind of going with people that like hiking, like going to fine restaurants, traveling, playing pickleball, those kinds of things, because otherwise you will just have a connection of just you being an immigrant or you being an expat and not really a true connection that is something that you share together as a common hobby or common knowledge or a common relationship. So, again, pro tips, open communication, and just knowing that this is going to happen. You might not be able to prevent it, but you can mitigate it. Or if you're in a sense of maybe disconnection from friends at home, or you're alone or lonely in your new country because you haven't found friends yet, just know that that is part of the process I don't think that people realize that usually in your home country, you are set into environment to make friends due to proximity. So often our friends are from school, outside activities, workplace, universities, dating, other friends that bring friends into the group, and you then become friends with their friends. So when you move abroad, all of that is kind of disconnected, and you need to make a whole new network again. So making friends with expats and natives, joining clubs and organizations. I have a whole video on how to make friends as an adult in my YouTube. I will put the link in the description as well, because this is a very important kind of concept. And I give lots of resources and options as to how to go about that in any country. If you have liked this day and all of the subjects that we have talked about, you are going to love the Moving Abroad course, because we take a whole week on culture shock, and we take a whole week on making friends as adults and keeping communication with family and friends back home alive and very connected. So we want to make sure that you're supported through this process. It can be a really lonely process. If you're interested in the course, it's a 5-week course. We're going to do 2 hours of one-on-one with me and you, any way you want to do it. So I can be helpful in setting goals. I can be your accountability coach. I can be your cheerleader. I can be your support system to just check in and see how everything's going. However you want to use those 2 hours in that 5 weeks is your choice. I will make the course very affordable, because I don't want price to be a barrier to anybody moving abroad and living their dreams. And so if you're interested, just check in the link below. There will be a wait list link, and sign up, and I will let you know when it's launched. All right, day 5, last day is tomorrow. I will see you then. Bye.